Hi, I'm Stephanie Sage. Welcome to the Stephanie Sage Show. Today I have a guest, Reggie Harris, here with me live in the studio. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Reggie has a passion for helping people develop as people and as teams, correct?
Correct.
And then you developed a set of principles that kind of guide you and other people to success in achieving their dreams and their goals. And then your business is Playbook Expert?
Playbook Expert, yes.
Yeah. And then, but before that, Reggie, you had been in accounting. You went to Blue Valley North, was it?
Yes.
And then you went to UMKC.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Roo too. Go
Okay.
Roos. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I went to the business school and marketing.
Yep. Got my accounting degree from Block School of Business as
Mhm.
well. So,
Yeah, that's a good school.
yeah, we need more alumni support. Keep the Roos together, though.
Yeah, I agree. But, one of the things I kind of regretted about going there is it didn't have the, normal kind of college life.
Not at all.
Yeah. I don't know if that was good or bad. Probably kept me out of trouble.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure if it was good or bad. I mean, it helped you stay in the books a little bit more and focus on studying, but it definitely was not your traditional college experience.
No. Did you focus on accounting then? Because you worked for Arthur Andersen, and then what was the other one? It was Ernst & Young. Yeah.
So I got my degree in accounting just because of the whole belief of, if you know the numbers, you know everything about the business. So you can break down a business and be able to make decisions if you understand the numbers. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, when we started business almost 12 years ago, I'm definitely not an accounting person. When I hear taxes and accounting, I'm like, no. I'm more like the sales personality. But if you make the mistake like I did and you don't learn all that, you don't keep your eye on the ball, and that can be a bad thing.
Yeah. It gets mighty good on the team that you can trust if you're not into the numbers, because that's the critical portion of the business.
Or finding a really good CPA if you aren't good with accounting.
Yeah.
Because there's good ones and there's bad ones out there, that's for sure. And somebody to do your tax planning, is very important. Do you do any tax planning work as well?
No, I don't. I was not a big fan of taxes.
Well, none of us are.
Yeah, and a lot of people just assume accountants are tax people, but there are very different disciplines even within accounting that my brain and taxes did not go well together.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't be an expert at everything. So after that, then you went on to, let's see, you worked as a general manager for some pro football teams.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
In the Arena Football League initially, and have been in three different indoor football leagues now.
Cool.
With multiple teams.
Yeah. Which teams were you with?
So start off with the Kansas City Brigade back in 2006.
Yeah.
The inaugural season where we played down at Kemper Arena. I did some consulting work for San Antonio Talons. Came back to Kansas City and did the Kansas City Phantoms that played out in Independence. And then most recently, I was in Cedar Rapids with the River Kings of the Indoor Football League.
Okay, cool. And then after that, I guess your entrepreneurial spirit just guided you to start Playbook Expert then?
Yeah, interesting. So Playbook Expert, I had kind of birthed before leaving the River Kings. COVID is what ended the River Kings.
Yeah.
But I had already started the platform more as an educational type vehicle, knowing that someday, we always tell players, the one thing that I know about every player is one day you're going to be a former player. And it's kind of the same thing when you're in front offices. At some point, you're going to have to make a move out of the sport. You're not going to be in that chair the rest of your life. It's kind of it's a rented chair. Don't ever get too comfortable.
Yeah.
So I had started
replaceable.
Yeah. And in sports, it's one of those where it's a year-to-year thing. If you're not getting the wins, if you're not putting the butts in seats, I mean, it's a
what'd you do for me today? Very much so. Sounds like it to me.
Very much so. So I created Playbook Expert as a vehicle to be able to help educate, guide, and direct guys off the field, and then found out, as I was getting more into it, I was really using all these business principles that I knew over the years, translating them to these athletes, pro sports environment, and went, you know what, it's a pretty good platform for everybody to take a look at.
Yeah. Well, I've always said sports are so instrumental in helping kids not only, stay active, fit, but learn about teamwork and about setting goals, and that, you don't always win. And we all want to win all the time, but you have to pick yourself back up, put that game behind you and move forward. Or if you make a mistake that maybe you lost the game for the team, but you have to mentally think, you got to learn from that, right? And then just put it behind you. And you have to do that in business, because you're going to make mistakes running a business, that's for sure. And some can be, pretty damaging, but some can be pretty minor. But the main thing is that you learn from it, right?
Yeah, and that's interesting with sports, because I always told people before I became a general manager, I didn't realize how bad of a loser I was.
Yeah, well, I can be that way too. Especially playing board games. I'm a bad loser.
Yeah, but if you think about it in the context of sports, if I lose a game on the weekend, I take a day or two, we get back to work to correct it. We get another game a week later. So even if you stew on it for a week, I know at some point I got to turn it off and get ready for the next battle. In business, there isn't that definitive date. There isn't that definitive, I got to play another game at 7:00 Saturday night, no matter what. So I better get over it and get back into.
So do you think people dwell on things more sometimes, maybe as a business owner or CEO of a company or what have you?
We do. It's natural. You obsess over decisions you've made, or if you've made a mistake, you want to
dwell on it. And how did I do that? Why coulda, shoulda, woulda, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and we always talk about, so I come from a football world, and
because you played sports growing up, correct?
I did. I did not very well, but
I thought in our interview you said that you had dreamed of playing. Most kids that play sports dream of being in the pros, of course, or playing college ball.
Right.
Not many people get to do that. So.
Right. If I always tell people, if I had today's technology and training, then maybe I would have had a shot. But at 5'9", $165, I wasn't going to the league. There are wide receivers and defensive backs that are that size, but it's a much smaller opportunity. But if you think about that, we always talk about defensive backs, for example. I don't know if you're much of a football fan.
Yeah, I love football. Yeah.
The defensive back, we always say they have to have the shortest memory on the field, because they get beat the most often, and they have to line up the next play as if nothing happened. They just got torched the last time they were on the field. In business, sometimes we don't do that. We may get beat. We may have missed something that we were supposed to deliver to the client, or someone screwed something up, and we obsess about what could I have done better for days, weeks, whatever. If you're able to get over things quicker, you're onto the solution a lot faster.
Yeah. Or I've also read where a lot of business owners will dwell on making a decision, or they just procrastinate, put off making the decision, or just not even wanting to address it. But then I've read that you're better off just trying to, I'm not saying make a rash decision, but make as a decision as quick as possible after, thinking it through for a little bit. Me, myself, I like to sleep on things. I always just, if I sleep on it, usually I'll think I'll have the answer probably tomorrow or the next day. But you're better off making a quicker decision than none at all, because the repercussions can be huge by ignoring something that isn't going to go away.
Yeah, and I've had to learn that myself, because I am one of those thinkers, and I like to obsess and
like every little angle and every option,
how we could have did it different. And I've just recently made a more concerted effort to make decisions. And sometimes, like you say, they're not necessarily the most popular decision. They may not be the right decision. Yeah. But doing something is better than just sitting back and waiting on it to happen. Yeah. So being proactive is always better than reactive.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then even the times that I know I've made maybe not the right decision, I'm still trying to think ahead. Like, if this doesn't work out, I'm all about options. I like to have options, and but there's always a way to fix something. I think that's what I've learned. I mean, it's got to be pretty doggone bad if you can't fix it. There's always a solution, I think.
Yeah.
One
of my favorite motivational speakers, Les Brown, always says, if you can look up, you can get up. And that's kind of the thing. If you're still breathing, you can fix it. Nothing is ever irreversible. No matter how bad we may think in the moment. Yeah. That moment is temporary.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, just being humans, we tend to get caught in our own drama, and we can build things up to be far worse than they really are, perhaps. And sometimes you may not realize how, maybe they're worse than you even think they are, but a lot of it's just trying to stay positive and look at the real situation, get all the real facts, and just don't jump to conclusions. And you know what I'm saying? It's sometimes we can make things worse in our own minds.
And if you think about most people, again, I go back to Les Brown, some of the things that he has said, because I try to internalize a lot of this. Most people don't care about your problems.
Well, that's probably true.
Right? They don't care. So if you make a mistake, they're not spending that much time obsessing over your mistake. It was a mistake. They noticed it. They've moved on.
Yeah. Because it's not their mistake unless it really affected them.
Right. So most of them either don't care, don't know, or the third one is they're just glad it's you. So
not them.
So they're not taking the time and paying attention and holding on to it. You may be, but those outside aren't. So it's seldom as big of an issue as you think it is.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess I just give myself a certain amount of time. That I can't remember what football coach, it might have been Marty Schottenheimer, but I had heard that his wife had set the rule that, you can only cry about the game, or be down about it for like 24 hours, or they had like a set time or something. I don't know if that's true. I can remember if that was him, but
I think that probably was with Marty, and that's a good rule. I didn't abide by it myself, but it's a good rule to only hold on to the lot. I had my last full season in Cedar Rapids. We went 1-13.
Oh,
those start adding up. It's kind of tough to get over in 24 hours when that starts adding up. But the theory and principle, yes, that's how you got to do it. Otherwise, you're miserable to live with. I mean, there's times I've gotten beat out of jobs, and especially in the past, and I would be like, I would be so mad for like, probably several days. But, I just figured, after a while, I thought I'll get the next one. And I did. You just have to train your mind to just set that time limit, because that's staying in that, I call it staying in that, like that low negative energy is exhausting. I mean, for me personally, like staying down and being depressed, it just doesn't make me feel well. And so I prefer to try to find a way to move myself out of that funk, you know? Yeah. Focus on the positives, focus on how we're going to get better and change things for the better, as opposed to dwelling on the negative. I used to have a show a while back, and one of the things that I would say is we're not going to talk about obstacles. They're never obstacles. They're all opportunities.
Right.
So if you look at everything as an opportunity to get better, we're going to discuss solutions.
Right. Exactly.
So when we come in, we talk about solutions. We don't talk about problems.
Yeah.
We talk about what opportunities we have to develop solutions and grow.
Yeah. See, I like that. I tend to use the word challenges, but I like that better, because that's a totally positive. It doesn't have any negative in it. And then speaking of negative, I mean, you were born with a hearing defect, correct?
Yes.
So you overcame enormous challenges as a child. Can you expand a little bit on that?
And I think that's part of my, it helps me to be positive about situations sometimes. So I had a number of health issues throughout my life, but as an early youth, I believe I was in first grade. Back when they used to give the hearing test in school.
I forgot about that. Yes.
You always had the person, they're sitting across from you. And
they don't do that anymore, do they?
No, I may have been the reason why they stopped doing it.
We got to stop doing this because of Reggie.
I may have been the one that changed. Because I realized, and you're a kid, you're trying to
Mhm.
please the adult. I realized that when they looked up at me, I'm supposed to raise my hand and say,
Like,
"Yep,
it's not looking.
I heard it."
Yeah.
So finally, I get to, I think I was in first grade, and one of the ladies doing the hearing test
Mhm.
realized something was evidently I wasn't reading her enough.
Uh-huh. So you could hear.
I could hear out of my left ear.
Okay.
My right ear was completely gone. I didn't
Oh,
hear
wow.
anything in my right ear. So she spun me around so I couldn't see her.
Okay.
I didn't know when she's expecting for
Right.
me to raise the hand because I'm not able to visually see her.
It's good she caught on to that so that she could, find out that something was wrong.
So I went through testing and come to find out I was born, never had hearing in my right ear. They tell my parents,
Mhm.
and I mispronounced a lot of words,
Mhm.
but everybody, first grader,
Yeah.
they do that.
Mhm.
So the doctors came back and they said, never going to speak correctly.
Wow.
You need to put him in special ed classes.
That's crazy.
And my parents took me home, set me down, and said,
That's insane.
This is what they
Mhm.
recommended. We're not doing that.
Thank goodness.
It's like, you're not going to special classes.
Mhm.
You're not going to be treated any different.
Mm-mm.
If we got to work harder to make sure that you can
Mhm.
pronounce words correctly, that's what we're going to do. And
Mhm.
no excuses, no feeling
Mhm.
sorry for yourself. You're not different than anybody else.
Mhm.
You just got to work a little harder in
Right.
some areas than others.
You were lucky that you had parents like that.
And that instilled in me. So early on, I'm overcoming those thinking, yeah, that's right. Now, I also had a brother
Mhm.
who, at 11 months old, an older brother,
Mhm.
at 11 months old, he was diagnosed with diabetes.
Oh,
And
wow.
since 11 months old, has
Gosh,
been
I didn't know. I didn't think
insulin
babies
dependent.
even could get diabetes.
He was the youngest case in the country at the
Wow, that's crazy.
time. So I've got an older brother
Mhm.
that's having to take insulin shots every day and deal with diabetes.
Mhm.
I'm going, this is nothing.
Right.
I have to turn my head to hear you. That's nothing
Yeah.
at all.
Mhm.
So it kind of instilled in me that doesn't matter.
Mhm.
We work through it. So what we didn't talk about, fast forward, I'm 26 years old,
Mhm.
working for consulting company, small
Mhm.
business consulting, on my way to the airport for a
Mhm.
client. And I'm on the phone, and I bite down, and my mouth filled up with blood.
Ooh.
Like this
That'd be scary.
This is not normal.
You're on the phone and driving live.
Yeah, not normal.
This is not
And-
good.
And for people that know me, this doesn't surprise them at all.
Mhm.
I still went to my client meeting first, and then
Yeah, I
went
would
to the
probably do that too. I
emergency
would.
room. Hindsight.
Let's carry on.
Yeah. But I called my dad and said, "Hey, something's not right. I'm on the way to the emergency room. Don't tell mom. Meet me there. We're gonna see
Yeah.
what's going on." So come to find out, I had a very rare tumor called an amelioblastoma in my right jaw. Everything happens to the right side of me. I don't understand why, but it's been a weakness.
Mhm.
So I had this tumor in my jaw where they had to remove my jaw. They
Oh my Lord.
took a bone out of my leg, reconstructed.
Wow.
26 years old and going,
What?
what are you telling me, doc?
Mhm.
And I remember having some conversations with folks about, what could happen, 12-hour surgery to do
Mhm.
this. And what if you don't come out? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Don't even think that way.
It was never even a thought in my
Yeah.
mind. It was always,
It'll all be
I'll
good.
go in, I
Mhm.
have the surgery, the tumor will be benign, I'll
Mhm.
go about life.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, that's when I got into pro sports, because I had always wanted to be in sports.
Mhm.
Sports was a dream of mine
Mhm.
from elementary school, that I wanted to work in pro sports. And while I'm still recovering, is when I made the decision and made the phone call to what ended up being my first full-time professional sports gig. Was I was still walking with a cane when I went down and secured the job.
Wow.
So I had that issue, and then you fast forward again. About 4 or 5 years ago, wake up one morning, brushing my teeth, and water just comes running down. I'm like,
On the right side.
On the right side, of course, on the right side.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of odd. Tried it again. Tried to drink water. I'm like, okay, now I'm freaking out, thinking I'm having a stroke.
Right.
Go into the doctor, and they're looking like, oh, you didn't have a stroke. Not sure what's going on. Get to the second doctor, and he's looking at me, and he goes, hey, do me a favor, blank your eye. Like, weird request, but
yeah, okay.
Couldn't do it. He goes, all right, smile. Couldn't do that either. He goes, I've seen this before, and he's like, you're very rare. I see this like 4 times a year. And I said, yeah, doc, I got to tell you, I do a lot of these rare things. I'm not real happy about that. So what happened is I developed shingles.
Oh, gosh.
But it was in my right ear.
Oh, wow.
And it damaged
in that
nerve.
Jaw where you had all that surgery.
Yeah, it damaged the nerve, which prompted Bell's palsy.
Yeah, so I was going to think. So
the entire right side of my face was frozen for a couple of weeks. Had to wear an eye patch because the eye wouldn't blink, and
so it wouldn't even close.
Wouldn't even close, and it's still not great now. Although now it's the exact opposite. Now it's more closed than my left eye. But again, that was one of those when I went, okay, what causes this? Stress causes it. Stress on our body does more damage and harm than anything else.
Probably so. I believe that.
So I can't keep doing this. I got to go. I got to have some fun. I got to get back and focus into things. So I think a lot of times when we go through, and I have people that look at me, oh, you're a general manager of a football team, and
which is probably high stress,
extremely high stress. We don't think about what other people, what do they deal with when they go home? Sports was one of those things. Anytime I've run a team, I stopped listening to sports talk during our season. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like gossip, a lot of it, or hear people saying this and trash talking people, and but saying good things too, or or a constructive criticism, maybe a better way of putting it.
And it's funny because I do a sports talk show now with the former Kansas City Chief, Ricky Sigler. I'll give him a shout out, Playbook experts. And we talk about guys' performance, and we talk about things that they do as well, because that's what the show is about. That's the information that you're conveying. But if you're that individual and you sit there and listen to it and you pay attention to what people are saying, and you're worried
you start to believe it. Whether it's true or not, whether you believe it or not, what's your truth about it?
Yeah. So you have to be able to overcome, be able to continue, move forward without listening to. If I had listened to people, I would have never spoke correctly.
That's very true.
If I had listened to folks, I would have. I told myself when I had that diagnosis and they told me I'd never speak correctly, one of the other things that I said I wanted to do was be on the radio.
There you have it.
I was on the radio for 2 years. Fox Sports did a radio show for 2 years. I was co-host of the show, and people always go, "Well, why was that such a big deal?" I said, "Think about it."
Well, it's one of my sayings. Sometimes you have to believe in yourself when others don't, and now I'm learning that's probably more often than not, right? And you definitely have done that. And that's really ironic that you were told you need to go to special ed. You'll never be able to communicate. And here you're doing, well, you're on podcast. You have a podcast. You did your radio show.
Yeah. And you think about what's your only tool on radio?
Your voice.
It's your voice. It's all about sound. It's all about your voice.
Emotion, voice inflection.
So for me, having that accomplishment of being on the radio took care of all of that I had heard those years before, telling me that I would never be able to do it, and I was different, and I wouldn't be able to speak correct. Now I not only can speak correctly, I'm able to go on a show for an hour every week where people are tuning in to listen to my voice. That was something that was a deliberate effort for me to do that.
Yeah.
So we look at these things, and then I'll let you ask a question. I'm hijacking the show.
Not at all. You're here. You're my guest. So I want you to talk.
Yeah, we look at health problems a lot because it's something that's seemingly out of our control.
Well, I don't know. I think a lot of your health is your mind. Like I think there's a lot of truth to I think fear can make you weak in a lot of different ways and attract illness to you. I'm a big believer in what you think, like pushing the negative thoughts away from you and just thinking, oh, I'm healthy, I'm good, instead of thinking, oh, something's going to happen to me, or I'm going to get sick, or I'm catching a cold. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I personally try to push those out.
Yeah. And that's a big thing that I believe in and been passionate about is you have to. And I'm not saying that I do it all the time myself.
No, we're human.
Not perfect at it. There are a lot of times when I'll have people say, "Hey, you remember that advice you gave me?" Use it. But that is something that you really have to pay attention to and be aware of. And sometimes, so I do a couple of things to help myself in those areas. I'll go to the gym now because I'm older. If I don't get into
I think it's more important to stay active as you age than ever for your balance, your agility, your strength. I mean, I think as you age, you definitely need to I hit the gym probably 4 or 5 times a week at least. So
I try to at least get there 3.
Yeah, it's hard to do 4 or 5. Yeah. Or walking, or just taking a walk at lunch, or just staying active.
It helps your mental focus. It helps your physical. I mean, everything about you, I think, is impacted by that. I try not to eat terrible, but I'm from the South. So,
yeah. We all have our weaknesses, and I think so I try to eat right through the week, and I 1 day a week eat, my guilty pleasures or whatever. But meditation.
I think I do it just the opposite of that. I think
Well, as long as you're trying, right?
Yeah.
At least you're be thinking about trying to eat right and drinking a lot of water. A lot of people don't drink enough water. I've been incorporating meditation into my life. That helps a lot. I'm trying to get to the point where I do yoga because I know that would be good for me. But just finding the time, it's hard balancing it all.
Yeah. I haven't tried yoga. I've been told that I need to, but I hadn't been able to get there yet.
Yeah.
Probably would get more in tune with your body doing that. I could see the benefits of it. Just haven't been able to drag myself to try that just yet. I like stuff that's more faster paced. I mean, I have to really focus I've done it just a handful of times, yoga, but so what else do you suggest to stay healthy mentally and physically? The exercise is good. I have a business coach, not a therapist, a business coach.
They can be kind of a therapist.
Yeah, she makes sure and correct me on that. And goes, when it's time for a therapist, I'll make a referral for you, but I'm not your therapist. I'm your business coach. But I do that because it's a good reset as well. There's those times when we get bogged down into our own thoughts and self that we can't see what's right in front of us.
Yeah.
And I think that really helps my mental being able to have that once a week checkup of, okay, here's what's been going on this week. Here's what I'm struggling with. Here's what I'm thinking here. And sometimes you already know the answer. It's hearing somebody else say it back to you.
Right.
Or ask the question that makes you say it.
Yeah.
But I find that really helps. And I've become a fan of, chiropractors, massage therapists.
Oh, I do all that.
I've got my son is 11 years old, big baseball player, thinks he's the next Salvador Perez.
Yeah.
So,
well, never say you can't do it.
You could be. Have him doing some of those stretching and going to the chiropractor, that type of stuff. You'd be surprised how when you go regularly,
Mm-hmm.
how they are able to be in tune with you.
Mm-hmm.
And they're able to tell you what's going on without you even
Right.
telling them, just based on how your body
Mm-hmm.
has reacted and held on to stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm a big proponent of all that. One of the other businesses
Mm-hmm.
that I'm involved with is a health and wellness company that CBD is a main product. Once I got into that business and industry as well, some of those natural things, I'm a strong supporter of now. Although, again, people that really know me, you go back 5 years ago, I would have said, a bunch of quacks. But after doing the research and actually living and seeing things myself, there are things that we can do without putting all the narcotics, putting all the heavy medications into our bodies. Not saying that it replaces it.
Yeah.
But if you're paying attention to your mental health, you're getting the exercise and you're doing the things, the self-care type things, look for some natural remedies and not always instantly jump into let's get some pharmaceutical.
Oh my God, there's 2 pharmacies on every corner, and the lines are just getting longer every time we go to work out. It's like, geez, the line. I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to that. It's just trying to do a lot of other natural things to make yourself healthier instead of just running to the doctor to get a prescription. Sometimes that isn't always the answer. Not that, that can't be the answer sometimes, but yeah, I think trying to limit the amount of prescription drugs you're taking, I think is a healthier alternative for me personally. But I like acupuncture too. Have you ever tried that?
I have had that before. Yeah,
I do like. I thought it was at first. I thought, "Ooh, this is gonna be kind of weird," but it's actually really relaxing. Like it's like I just like zone out. It's like nap time for like 30 minutes. I love it.
Well, and then maybe you probably picked up my personality enough. I'm a little sarcastic at times.
That's okay. I love sarcasm.
Yeah, so even when I go to them, I'm like, all right, I don't know what the voodoo is, but it works for me. So just do what you do and don't tell me what it is.
Oh, that's a whole, Chinese medicine. That's like a whole another, Eastern medicine. I mean, I wish our society incorporated them because I think over there they use both, medicines together. And I wish we did that here more, I think, in this country. But
if you're not, and this is something my business coach has told me, especially for entrepreneurs, business owners, C-level executives, if you're not physically and mentally in the best condition possible, your business suffers.
Probably so.
Because business revolves around you. Those decisions revolve. You can't make as good of decisions if you're not healthy.
Right. Or if you're just really distracted. Like my mother just passed away on October 16th. She had lung cancer, but we were for 5 or 6 weeks. I was so focused on her care because she just went downhill really fast, went into the hospital, came home on palliative care, and finally ended up on hospice. But I was like her full-time caregiver. And I was not mentally into the game with the business. I mean, just couldn't be. I didn't have the energy, but thank goodness I have, my husband and my son who, kept things running here. But it's very true. So, and I definitely wasn't at the top of my game, and I didn't expect gave myself that time because, sometimes you have to take breaks away and handle things that happen in your life. But you're right. Yeah. If you're not, taking care of yourself and you're tired and you're run down and stressed out, and people are going to feel that, like that work with you too. That's your employees are going to feed off of that, and it could go out and affect your whole organization. Right.
Yeah. And it does. And typically if you're leading at all, the energy you're giving off permeates the entire organization. So if they see you struggling or they see that you're stressed out, even if they're not stressed out and worried, they start going, well,
what's going on here?
Why are they worried? What's going on? What don't I know that you're not sharing with me that's got you all out of sorts?
Yeah.
So then they will pick up and start to emulate that as well.
Yeah, well, I'm a big believer in just the energy that you put off, that, if you stay positive, loving, just all the good qualities that a person should try to live by, you're going to put off a higher frequency, a higher energy level that people feed off of.
Right.
And you just make your whole environment better and the people around you better. And then if you're just this, I call it the low energy, that negative, you're down, not that we all don't have bad days, but it affects everybody around you. And then you just need to be cognizant of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Very, very important.
Yeah.
Very important. That's part of the playbook. If you're not paying attention to those things, it's going to impact. I shouldn't say that. It's part of most people's playbook, because everybody's got a different playbook that they're going to live off of. But I've yet to find someone that it shouldn't be part of their playbook, but most people that's part of it.
So now with your playbook, is that kind of like a business plan for your life in essence?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what I always tell people is my catchphrase on that is everyone has a dream. Not everyone has a playbook.
Yeah. Or hopefully everybody has a dream. There's probably some people that don't. I have way too many dreams. I'm like this with goals and so I had a business coach that say, Stephanie, you can't have 20 goals. You can have like 3 or 5. So yeah, I'm totally over the top on goals, but
so that and good setup. So I did an ebook called 5 Must-Have Plays for Success with a former NBA athlete, and he wrote his 5 plays, and I wrote my 5. Here's where that came from. My head coach up in Cedar Rapids, we're preparing for the season. We're having the meetings. We're going through the playbook. We're looking at game film. And he says to me about 2 quarterbacks, because we're going in trying to decide who the starting quarterback is going to be. And he said, I asked them to put together their 5 plays. So what are you talking about, coach? And he says, in the game, you're always going to hit that patch where it's out of sync. Things may be moving too fast. Nothing's clicking.
like in your business.
Just like in business. You need 5 plays that no matter what's going on, you can execute. It's so second nature to you. So when you're out of rhythm, he said, I'll pull a quarterback over, and when they're out of rhythm, and say, go to your 5 plays. You call the offense, you call the plays to get yourself back in that rhythm, go to your comfort zone and execute those. If you can do that, we can get the game back on track.
That makes a lot of sense.
So I took that and put it into business terms, because like you say, we get into those situations sometimes where everything's coming. The contractors are calling our supply shipments behind. The jobs are stacking up. The costs are rising. What are we going to do? Go to your fundamentals. You got 5 plays. You got 5 things that you can execute every time. That you're a salesperson. You can go in and sell, right? So
pull that rabbit out of my hat.
Yep, everything's backed up. Here comes Stephanie. Everything's backed up. When Stephanie leaves the office, though, that client's calm, that you got everything under control, because you know how to communicate with them and say the right thing so that
make them feel good about it.
Right.
And then they know you'll take care of it in the end.
Right.
Yeah.
So all of us have those things that when we're in a situation, we know we can go back to. So where the concept of the playbook comes, not only you need those 5 plays, but once you identify what your goals are, you probably shouldn't do 20 of them.
No. I gave that up. Thank goodness to Dana.
Once you identify what that goal is, how are you going to get there? So we sit down with folks and walk through this is where we want to go, and this is where we're at. Now we're going to design that playbook. We're going to design what it takes for us to get from here to there. Knowing there are times that we're going to be in the middle of that playbook that nothing's going to be working.
Right.
And it's all going to go crazy. Well, that's when we make adjustments. But we got to have the core plan first.
Exactly.
If you don't have a plan, my dad used to always tell me, nobody plans to fail. They only fail to plan.
Yep, that is very true.
If you don't have a plan, you don't have that playbook, how are you going to get there? So have your dream first, and then let's figure out how you're going to do that.
Well, like every year we help our employees set their own goals, personal and business. What do they want to get promoted here at Sage, what have you. And we always tell them you have to write them down, because if you don't write even the 1 or 2 goals that you may have down, and then it's the chances of them becoming real aren't going to be there, because they're just all up in here and you push it in the back of your mind. But if it's on a piece of paper, and then you have the steps, I tell them, you may have to do 2 or 3 little goals to get to that final goal, or what have your playbook, right? Yeah.
And there are some school of thoughts that say you should break things up in the 90-day.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah.
I'm one that I'm a little more impatient, so sometimes I have to break it down in like 30 days. Can I do this for 30 straight days? And I did it. Now we move on to the next. But there is get those written goals and timelines to where you're having achievable steps along the way, and not go all the way.
Well, it gives you motivation, like, oh, I made some progress, because a lot of times people get discouraged and that'll never happen. And
so in one of the businesses I'm running right now, I'm only running 2.
Only 2.
That's one of the issues that we have right now. Everybody wants to be finished.
Lack of accountability, perhaps.
Well,
maybe
we're a startup that's only been around for 6 months.
That's not very long.
But they want the finished product.
Well, it takes it takes a while to get a company off the ground.
Right? And I do it myself sometimes. Some days I walk in and I'm doing, man, we should be doing with XYZ competitor, and we should be at this level. And I'm like, well, hang on a second.
Yeah. A little reality check there.
We hadn't even written the process manual yet. How are we going out there expecting to be able to compete at that level? Human nature. We want to get to the end and skip through all of that goes through. But you have to be patient and willing to understand
do the sacrifices. I think somebody, I talked to so many people, but that's what they said. They're finding that a lot of people just don't want to do the work, or they don't want to suffer through the time that it takes. I mean, because I'll tell you, the first, I don't even know, 3 to 5 years that we were in, it was tough. It was really tough. The first 3 years, I don't know. There's days I'm like, what am I doing? Because it's so difficult. But, you just keep going out every day, learning, growing, getting new business. But it's hard, and success doesn't usually come easy. Because I think if it came easy, what would be the point, really? I mean, everybody's successful. Woo, we can all do it, because it takes that perseverance and that dedication to keep going. I think they even say that about athletes, or even like famous, Hollywood stars or musicians, and people think that they just have this immediate overnight success. And that's actually pretty rare. That most people spend a lot of years training, in sports, or they play sports their whole lives, perhaps. I mean, very few just pop right out of, nowhere and play college ball. But I mean, it happens. But, most people spend a lot of years trying to be successful, or they fail numerous times, go bankrupt 2 or 3 times before they finally have a successful company. So,
So I'm going to bring up our beloved Kansas City Chiefs right now, because we look at Patrick Mahomes and how amazing he was his first year as a starter. But to your point, as you're watching some of those amazing throws that he's making as a football player, and then they flash back to a picture of him playing baseball as a shortstop with that same little sidearm when he's 12, 13 years old, or he hits the, throws the game-winning touchdown, and then they show you this film of him hitting a game-winning shot at the buzzer playing basketball when he was a kid. He's been doing these things, building up to that. That was a fantastic year that most people would not have done.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that he just woke up and was this instant magician.
Phenom. Yeah.
Right? He had been doing this he's been Patrick Mahomes his whole life. He's been working for that moment. Now, when you look at him and he's had a couple of games of struggle and people are going, oh, he's broken. No, he's not.
Everybody has struggles.
No, he's not. He's having a bad day. He may be having a bad season. Doesn't mean anything. He's still Patrick Mahomes. He still has all those things that he worked on before and will do it again. But we get real quick to, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Let's work through it. Let's get through the process. Stay with the process. You can't abandon everything at the first sign of difficulty.
No. Well, if he would have done that years ago, maybe he would have given up sports. I'm sure he had a few bad ball games when he was 8 or 10 or 12. And what if he said, I'm just not going to do this anymore? He wouldn't be where he is today. And if he does that now, which we know he won't, but, if he listened, like you said earlier, to the people that are being critical, then he won't achieve what he's going to achieve 5-10 years from now, right?
That's right.
So yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. Like you just have to, well, the point is you always have to continually believe in yourself. At the end of the day, you live your life. Right. And so you should make those decisions and think for yourself that I'm good enough and I've got this. And if you decide that you don't want it, then that's your choice too. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for you.
Yeah. I've worked in probably about 4 or 5 different industries over the course of my life, just because I used to do an annual assessment. So
on yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the key factor was, am I still having fun? If I'm not having fun, then I immediately would go into, okay, how do I change and go do something different? How do I change?
Or
jobs?
why am I not
How do
having fun?
Change industry. Yeah. What is it? Why am I not having fun? So what do I need to do to get back to having fun? And if I'm not, then there's a problem. And I say I used to do that annually because I'm not sure I do it every year anymore.
Maybe we just start feeling like, well, I'm just not feeling this anymore. Like if you just think, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah. And as the older I get, years seem to go a lot faster.
They sure do. I don't know what is up with that.
Go a lot faster. So sometimes I'm like, it's not time to. But no, it becomes that you learn to self-adjust a little faster, and it doesn't take you a year to notice, hey, this is a little off. I need to make a correction. Yeah. So there is still a deliberate time when I will sit down and go, okay, where are we at? Let me take a self-assessment.
Yeah.
How am I performing? Am I in the right vehicle? Do I have the right surrounding team with me? Are the goals and objectives clear? How does this work going forward? Yeah. And then, like I said, make the adjustments, make the changes necessary. Yeah.
Well, I guess I never thought of it as an assessment, but I do, our company business plan, which is goals every year, but then we also have our personal goals as well. But this year, maybe that's a good idea to incorporate the self-assessment into that, because there's a lot of truth to that, because, you change and evolve as a human being. And if we all stayed stagnant, that would be really boring. Yeah. So if you're not changing and growing, I don't know, then maybe you don't have to change what's important to you. But I think, every year, every few years, you probably do have to reevaluate, where am I at in my life? What is a priority for me right now? Yeah. Who are the people that I really want to, spend time with? Especially with COVID, that really, I think the good thing out of 2020, one of the good things is I think a lot of people slowed down. I know I did personally. Like I wasn't out doing my crazy running here to there with networking, and I think a lot of people spent, probably maybe more time than they wanted to with family at the end of the day by the end of 2020. But no, people I think, got to realize that I really need to, I haven't been spending, valuable time with my family, and that we reevaluated our priorities maybe a little bit better out of that. So, because you can't get back your time, know.
Right. And I think you start appreciating some things a little different because of COVID. Not only the people that you're around, but also just some of our freedoms. Yeah. Right. And the coming and going and but I can't even go do what I want to do because movie theater's not open. Right. Or I can't go to the gym right now. What am I
Right.
going to do? Because the
I know I
gym's
had
locked
put
down.
on my COVID 10 or 15 pounds. I mean, because all I could do
Right.
is walk.
Yeah.
'Cause, so, and I don't think you just don't burn the calories sometimes with walking and, doing your weights
Right.
and all that. Yeah. And I think a lot of people's health kind of suffered,
Mhm.
and well, people ate more, I'm sure, and probably drank more than they
Yeah,
usually
eat
do.
more, drink more.
So a lot of stuff. Yeah. There was a lot of bad, but there was some good out of that year for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, well, I just so appreciate you coming in and sharing your story and
It's
just
fun.
telling people about your Playbook expert. So now, do you mainly do consulting? Do you have a team of people that work with you, or how do people go to you, and how does that work? I guess.
Yeah. So website is playbookexpert.com. Social media on Instagram, it's at playbookexpert. I do have some individuals that work alongside of me, but the basic premise is a client comes to me, and my typical client is a former pro athlete who needs to monetize their brand or just kind of clean up their business of where they're going.
Okay.
So that's the primary. The secondary thing that we're doing, where I've got a little other folks helping part of that. So that's the consulting side of the business. The other side of that is we're building programs like the 5 Plays for Success in a format where we can take those into schools.
Oh, that's cool. Very cool.
And that way we're able to come in to, so
is that to help
with
looking? Is that with sports and then also like life skills?
It's life skills.
Life skills. Right. I like that. That's awesome.
Here's what I found out that was really interesting, and it works with my kids too. If you're in sports or entertainment, kids will listen to you 10 times more than their parents or teachers.
Probably so.
So I found out, actually it was at UMKC when that light bulb went off for me. When I was an accountant at Arthur Anderson, I didn't get invited back to speak very often. I became general manager of an arena football team. I was invited back every year to give a presentation to one of the accounting classes.
Well, sports is just more fun than accounting.
Right. It gives you, so if you're, and we prefer that middle school, high school, college age kid, we tailor it depending on the age group, but they need to be old enough to understand what they want to do, where they're going, that type of thing, be able to make those choices. But at the same time, when I come in and tell my sports stories, that's cool. Yeah. Right. It's something that they can have a little bit of fun with. We put in the messaging behind it. They're learning and don't even realize how much they're learning and what they're doing. So COVID slowed that up. We were doing a lot of that up in Cedar Rapids. We were doing a lot of the school presentations, going out and doing it there.
Did you do that here in Kansas City?
I have not done it as much here in Kansas City yet. We're kind of getting back out now, starting to actively market that part of the business, because it had kind of gone away with COVID. So I have not really done that as much now, which is why I had the time to create a sports podcast with Ricky.
Right.
It was, once a week instead of going into a classroom, we go sit and talk about sports.
Do you also incorporate into this program teaching kids about different occupations? Because I'm not like against college, but I'm one of those that thinks college can be a big waste of time and money for a lot of people, and that you can achieve success in this world a lot of different ways, whether you're an entrepreneur and you start a business, whether maybe you're a musician, maybe you want to go into the trades, because you can make really, really good money in the trades. It's a skill that you don't have to invest, $100,000 or whatever. And I just feel like we need to do a better job in this society of teaching kids about all the different occupations out there that maybe match closer with their, God-given talents or interests or skills. And more people will be happy with what they do, because I feel like a lot of people, like maybe from my generation, you just go to college and you get a degree and you end up in this job and you don't even know what you want to do. And next thing you know, you're at this job that you really aren't very fulfilled. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like we'd have a lot more happy people.
Yep. And that's why I say each playbook is different, right? Because there is no one size fits all. And I think that's, to your point with college, that's where some of that gets lost, because sometimes it's okay, here you go. You're going to go get your degree, and then you're going to go work for the firm, and then you're going to retire, and then you're going to go into private practice. And there's this, not everybody wants to go this linear path. Some that doesn't fit. Some can't stand college.
Well, my son, he went for 2 years. He always hated school, but he loves the social part of school and the sports, of course. But
So,
he just never liked school. That just wasn't his
thing. The interesting thing, my kids hate it when I say this. I didn't like school, so I got my 4-year degree in 3 years.
Oh,
because I just didn't want to be there.
You just want to get out as soon as possible.
I
Doggone
loaded
it.
up the summer and just plowed through and got it done as quick as possible. So instead of just not going, I just crammed it into a shorter window. Same end result though is I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to get to the workforce sooner.
Right. Make some money.
So that's what I did, and that's going to be different for every individual. But I think that is something, and we talk about that when you go through that class and playbook, and we're talking to the kids. You don't know what you're going to be just based off of what people tell you.
Right, so exactly. Because parents may mean well, but they don't always, or they may say, I think you should do this. And they, but maybe the kid's like, oh, I just don't know. That doesn't mean, you know.
And I think we may have mentioned this when we talked before, but when I came through school, there was no such thing as sports management at UMKC. That was not.
I don't remember that myself, but
and there weren't entrepreneurial classes.
There probably are now.
There are now,
and there's lots of programs. In fact, Thalia Cherry, she has an entrepreneurial program for kids in high schools, and I think that's wonderful to get them thinking about working for themselves someday.
Yeah. So we absolutely mentioned that there are more ways. There's not just one way to go through. Which I like to always say, who would have thought that I would end up being the general manager of a football team?
Right, because you were in the hospital, sitting there. You had some time on your hands, I know, and so you thought, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. I'm going to make a phone call, you just don't know what path you're going to be led down. You know.
Yep, and you never know. I'm going to give a shout out to those of us who are no longer in that young category. So I had an individual reach out to me, 58 years old, had a health issue, woke up one morning and said, hey, you know what? Here's an industry over here that I've thought about when I was younger, but never pursued. I wonder what that would be like now. And we're sitting down having the conversation, and he's going, am I crazy? And I'm going, if it moves you,
if your little voice is telling you that, you're not crazy.
Go check it out.
Yeah.
So even if you're 58, you may be up for a new career.
Well, that's what I always say. People go, when are you gonna, let your son take over, and you're gonna back out of stage? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm thinking about what I want to do when I grow up. It's like, it's like I'm already thinking ahead. Like, what do I want to be doing? Because I just couldn't sit around.
Yeah.
And it's never too late to go out and achieve your dreams. Just you got to stay active.
Make sure you have a plan.
Have a plan. Have a playbook.
Yeah. Make sure you have a plan.
Yeah. And make sure it's something you're going to have fun doing. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And it's something that you believe that you can do, and you don't let other people say you can't.
Right. And I don't just work with sports people anymore. I work with business owners, small business people. We all have a dream.
Yes, we do.
Or we should.
We should. You should. Everybody should dare to dream. That is for sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on my show. It's been so much fun. I so appreciate it. Yeah, taking the time out of your day. And then once again, they can get in touch with you on Instagram at
Playbook Expert. Twitter, it's I don't do much on Twitter at Reggie Harris GM, and then the website is playbookexpert.com.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, if you need help achieving your dreams and goals, give Reggie a call because he's definitely achieved his. That's for sure.
I have fun.
Yeah, and he has fun too. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching us today, and thank you once again.
Thank you.